Hello dear friends, how are you? Are you ready to start another amazing course that is one of the main prerequisites of cybersecurity, Microsoft Networking Services course? Well, let's see what we will learn in this course and start the first practical work quickly in this video. First of all, I apologize for my voice, I have a cold. Now let's go to check the course syllabus and then I will start the lesson quickly. We will learn about what is Active Directory and what is benefit that. And after that, we will start with Windows Server installation and we will describe and perform and implement install, setting up and basic configuration of Active Directory services. Then we will look at how we can install and configure DNS servers and DNS servers backup item or another item as backup DNS server. Then I will describe and teach you how we can install and configure DHCP server and its backup server. And we will also consider how we can install the backup Active Directory domain service or domain controller backup. Then we will talk about installing and configuring web server, FTP server, WSUS server, installing and configuring mail server, installing and configuring NAT, VPN server, and all remote access servers, and configuring file servers. And we will talk and practical performing the configuring, installing the configuring CA server, certified authority, and we will talk about configuring and managing group policy for performing any security policies through group policy as centralized. And final, at the end of this course, after we learned all of these items, all of these configuration and installation, we will put them all comprehensive in one complete lab for all services, for running all services and work all of them together. And we will end this course more completely, more practically, and we will learn more and more items. Well, what is Active Directory and why we need it? Let me say very simply, Active Directory is a name under which all systems are integrated together. That's all, okay? But in practical, Active Directory creates a domain under one name that simplifies the work of network administrators and end users while increasing the security of organizations. If there is no Active Directory, we will have to create usernames and passwords on each system one by one, set the access control to resources and files, etc. individually on all systems, and many other tedious tasks. Most importantly, the security of system is compromised due to the need to implement security policies individually. Therefore, we need Active Directory to improve security and simplify things. Administrators have centralized control over computer and user configuration through the Active Directory group policy feature. Users can authenticate once and then seamlessly access resources across the domain for which they are authorized. It's called single sign-on. Additionally, files are stored in a central repository in central server where they can be easily shared with other users to make collaboration easier and properly backed up by IT technicians to ensure business continuity. In Active Directory, the first step in Active Directory is installing Domain Controller or DC, which is the one server that contain server operating systems. For example, Windows Server, Microsoft Windows Server 2019. Microsoft Windows Server 2022 and any other versions. Okay, it is the base and heart of the Active Directory. And beside that, across that, you can have DNS server, DHCP server, web server, FTP server, and many other items. So your first step for running Active Directory in your network is installing and configuring domain controller, the first domain controller. Maybe you have more than one domain controller. For example, domain controller for test.com. This is the name and the suffix and its suffix. Maybe it doesn't have any suffix, for example, just test. Usually it has the suffix, for example, test.local, test.com, or any other company's name. It doesn't matter. So your first step is installing domain controller, your first domain controller. Maybe you need second domain controller for child domains for another child departments, or maybe you want to install another domain controller as backup the main domain controller, and so on. We will discuss completely about that, completely about the Active Directory in next videos. Step by step, let me describe for you. Now let me to start the installation, the first domain controller or first DC, and installing the Active Directory steps in VMware Workstation player as virtual machine. So this is VMware Workstation, and I want to start my first domain controller in the network. Before install that, imagine your network such this. You have the network infrastructure that contains, for example, some switches, some computers, some routers, or wireless modems, or any other hardware infrastructure. The network contains two main parts. First, hardware. Second part is software based. Hardware based is hardware infrastructure devices that perform your network based on hardware, such as switches, and you put switch and connect all computers together. And the second part is software, for example, installing Microsoft Windows Server, Linux servers, and any other software-based items. Well, now we want to install the Active Directory. For that, we need Windows Server version. The newest version is Windows Server 2020 in this time, and but I don't have that. I want to install by Windows Server 2019. So I start by create a new virtual machine, and next, and select installer disk or image file or ISO. Select this one and paste path for accessing to that. Select Windows Server 2019 detected. After select that, I did enter the product key, and now I'm in Windows Server 2019 my machine name and its path for install. Next, the VMware Workstation asks you about maximum disk size. 60 gigabytes is okay, and you can customize configuration. Hardware configuration not required. Finish, and let me to start the Windows installation process. Windows Server setup is starting now. Wait to start complete. Now during for copying Windows files, then getting ready for installation, install features one by one. Okay, that is installed, and did restart the system. Let me to restart that. Okay, finally installed. Let's go to configure first domain controller. This is the Windows Server, okay? The public items or general items like another Windows. It's not any special items. And this is the server manager. This is the server manager. If you close this, you can access that by here, by type server manager, and click to open the server manager window. Okay, and in server manager you have some important menus. For example, manage for installing features and services, some menu tools, and view and help that contains many other items. We will discuss about them. And let's go to start Active Directory. If you remember, I said you the first item, the first server, and the first system in Active Directory the main system that provides the basic, the background, the main ground of Active Directory is domain controller. Is first domain controller that you installed on your network. So for installing, so we need install the first domain controller. Okay, for installing domain controller, you need these items. Keep in mind. First of all, you need manually setting IP address. Well, I need set the Active Directory's IP, the Active Directory's first domain controller IP address as manual. Well, for instance, I said 100.0.0.1 and subnet mask 255. This is first item. The second item, you need specify manually DNS server. It's if you don't have any DNS server in your network now, it is not important. You can set your loopback address or your own IP address. I can set the 100.0.0.1 or I can use 127.0.0.1. Well, another important item is in installing the feature of the DNS server. In Server Manager, manage, add roles and features, and let me check it. Okay, next, role-based or feature-based installation or remote desktop. We need role-based or feature-based because we need install the feature of DNS server. And my computer, my Windows server is this one. And next, select DNS server, add features. Okay, and next, restart after its installation automatically, and let's install DNS server. Before you install the Active Directory domain service or your first domain controller, you will need to set IP address statically, DNS address statically, and DNS feature installation. Okay, installation is completed, and now server started completely. So what is the next step is, again, manage, add features, next, and select Active Directory domain services. This is the main service for Active Directory that install domain controller in your network. Add feature, next, sorry for my voice, dear friends, next, and install, and wait to install complete. Okay, it's installed as well, and after it's installed, this icon will appear in Server Manager window and ask you if you want, you can promote the server as domain controller. We click on this item, and first of all, we look at this. We can look at this window and consider items. So what are these? Types of Active Directory installation methods. First, add a domain controller to an existing domain. This item will use if you have domain network, if you have Active Directory network, and you want to add another or additional domain controller for an existing domain. We want to install Active Directory or install a domain from the base. So it's not good for us. The second item is add a new domain for an existing forest. Imagine if you wanted to build a forest, what would be your first step? Planting the first tree. Good. Now, why the forest? What is the forest now? This is because the Active Directory structure is a tree-based structure, meaning you create a domain called test.local, for example, then create domains as its subdomains, For example, a child domain called HR for human resources.test.local, a child domain called finance.test.local, and so on. And each subdomain may have its own subdomain clients and systems and servers. So basically, we are creating a tree structure. Good. Now, if my organization has a domain with its own tree structure and your organization has its own domain, when you try to connect them together, we have effectively created a forest. For this reason, in this item, the Windows server asks our the forest name for existing forest. And third item is add a new forest. Now I want to add a new tree. It means I want to add new forest. The first step for creating forest is planting the first tree. Now I want to add a new forest. So I want to select this one and select the name for my domain. For example, test.local. It can be any name, not important item. Well, and next item, select the next. Now, what is the functional level? Forest functional level and domain functional level. That is, if in the future you want to add a server at the forest level or at the domain level to your domain network, if you want to add another server in your forest or in your domain, its operating system cannot be lower than Windows Server 2016, for example. If you select, for example, Windows Server 2022, the operating system listed here will be higher versions, will be contain higher version, for example, 2019 and other items. Well, and it will not be lower than this specified item. The domain name service or DNS server is installed. Okay, its features is installed. I will describe and teach you what is the DNS server and how it will be configured in next videos in this course. But what about the global catalog? A GC or global catalog is a server that allows users and applications to find objects in the Active Directory domain tree based on one or more attributes of the target object. And the next item is Directory Services Restore Mode. For Restore Mode Active Directory, you can set its password here. For example, I want to set the complexity password. Well, and next, it asks me NetBIOS name for older versions. Almost, we have not any systems in our networks. In most of networks in the world, the older systems that use NetBIOS. And go to the next step. Then it asks us for specify the path for database folder, like file folders, and sysvol folders for has responsibility for sharing policies, security policies between clients and servers. It is a sysvol, and select next. It will provide us the opportunity for reviewing items, and if we want go to the previous page and change them. Not required. Next. And wait to install. After installation, we got an error. What is this? I deliberately did not run this so that you can get acquainted with this error message. The mistake that all newbies usually face is because of forgetting this simple option. But what is the error? Read it exactly. Verification of prerequisite for domain controllers promotion failed. The local administrator account becomes the domain administrator account. When you create a new domain, the new domain cannot be created because the local administrator account of this server password does not meet the requirements. And this means I need change the password of this system's local administrator. Computer management. local users and password. Users, administrator, right click, set password, and set complexity password. For example, 1 2 3 4 5 6 at A, capital B, C, capital D. Okay, and promote again fastly. New domain, test.local. Next, and now set the password for Active Directory restore mode. Password again. Next item, and select NetBIOS as its default name. Again, next item, and wait to check the prerequisites again. Okay, as you can see, we successfully overcome this error by setting the correct password for local administrator account, and we didn't get that red error again, and the install button is activate, and I start the installation of Active Directory, wait to install, and restart the server. And in the next video, I will start for working with the Active Directory.